that was the only thing I knew that could bring us together, because he was hating on me. He was so mad at me. And he was telling my sister that I was a terrible mother, and laying his head in my lap and crying and begging me to take him home. Now, here's this grown man-child, And I finally just looked at him and said, listen, one day you're going to thank me. I said, I am the captain of this boat, and you're a passenger on it. And all I can tell you is I'm steering this one. And one day you'll steer your own, but one day you'll look back and you'll realize how hard this was for me to do. And we're going to power through this. We're going to get through this. And you're going to look back and say, thank you, Mom. I could have never moved myself. This was hard. This was not anything I did by choice. This was me trying to help him launch himself away from what I thought good people's children were going bad in my hometown. Meth was so prevalent.
Brave. Yeah. It's so brave. I honestly can't even say no to my son when he wants a second dessert. Like, I'm just the worst.
Well, when they come to a little older age, you'll be able to step it up.
Sure.
Well, I was heartbroken about doing it. It was hard to see my son cry and beg to go home. And I wanted, in my own mind, to go home too. I wanted to go home to my comfort zone. But, and I couldn't sell my house. My house was on the market. Nobody was offering me anything close to what I wanted. I finally took it. I sold it for a fraction of what it was worth, just to get done with it, just to close the door so he wouldn't keep looking at a hole he could crawl back to.
Is he grateful now that he stuck it out?
He's absolutely grateful. Absolutely. In every way. But it took him growing up to figure that out. So nowadays.
So let's get into the paint story.
Yeah, so the paint story came about because I am sitting home thinking, I'm still working in New York. We finished the project in Danbury. Now I'm working in Long Island. I'm working all over all the different boroughs. This man kept buying properties. He and I had knockdown dragouts, and he had hired me back. And now I am going and traveling again. I've hired a nanny to take care of my son, and she's doing a great job, and everything's working out wonderful on that side. But when I'm home, I'm not spending the time I need FaceTime with my son. We don't have a lot to talk about. So I think, what I need to do is maybe create a little business, a little something entrepreneurial for him. So I sat down on a computer, and not being a graphic designer, I knew what things needed to look like. So I had a little program on a disc, on a CD-ROM, stuck that in there, start creating this beautiful little color card. And I made a 50 color card that was really pretty. And
what does that mean exactly for people who don't know?
It was on a black background. It had all the little color samples of all these colors, and I named them all. And in my mind, I was thinking, I'm going to create an online business. I knew I wanted to do something online because I felt like that was where things were headed. So I thought, I'll have this online business. I'll still work in New York, just like I'm doing. And I'll make this little online business and create a website, because this was, websites were out there, but everybody didn't have a website at this moment, or especially an e-commerce website. But I was going to buy knockdown furniture, meaning furniture that's coming in a box. It had its own packaging. I was going to open this furniture up, and I was going to sell these silhouettes of furniture, like a dining table, a bar stool. Here's 5 chair designs. You can pick out the chair, the table you like. I'll paint them in this series of these 50 colors. You pick your color, you tell me, and I'll paint the chair the color you want, the bar stool the color, so a la carte. You can pick it out. And then I'll slide it back in that packaging, tape that box back up, and it's yours. You put it together on your end. I was painting the parts, basically. That was my idea. And never dreaming I was going to the paint business, by the way. So as I put this color card onto my Facebook page, this was back when Facebook was only pictures. There was not even video at that time on Facebook. And I put that picture up there, and a girl from my hometown says to me, hey, is that paint? Can I buy some? And it was in February. I remember this so plainly, thinking, wow, does she sell paint? So I said, do you sell paint? She said, no, but I have a booth in an antique mall here in my hometown. And I said, all right, well, sure, I'd sell you some paint. So I'm thinking, in my mind, I've got to, if I'm going to do this, I'll have to have paint. Maybe am I going to buy it retail, or maybe I'm making I'll get a paint line. I'll make my own paint here. Maybe that's the way to do it. Never dreaming again selling paint. It was always tied to the furniture piece. So she says, I'll call you on Tuesday. Well, Tuesday's my day.
Tuesday's your day, girl.
Tuesday's my day. So she calls me up, phone rings, and I'm thinking, oh, please, Lord, let her say she don't want to do this. I knew it was her. It was same right area code, 423 area code. I said, hey, Charlotte, how you doing? And she says, how much do I get? How much paint do I get? And I said, by that time I had researched other paint lines, and I had told her wholesale was $1,200 for the opening order. She said, how much do I get for that $1,200? So this lady was trusting me 1,000% to do her right by this. So I had said, all right, well, let me send you the breakdown. And I said, so she said, well, I think I want to do it. I was praying she'd say no, because this was going to force me now to go do something. Well, now Craig and I had just moved in together. He was leaving to go on a trip out west, back to Seattle or wherever. And I remember leaving me that day. I was sitting on my bed thinking, how in the hell do I build a website? I was on some of those website things that teach you or show you how, and I'm getting on here to get a format, you know. I'm building a website now. And poor Charlotte, I said, let me get back to you. I'll tell you how much you're going to get and all that. You know, I'm trying to put her off a little bit. And I said to him, I said to Craig, as he tells me bye, I said, well, when you get back, I'll have this paint thing worked out. I'll be making, I'm going to have a line of paint, be working on that. And he laughed, and I thought, dude, this guy don't know me at all. He has
because
no
it really
idea.
does seem like every time you've had an opportunity, it's been somebody like a Tanya Tucker showing up and being like, can you make this thing? And you're like, sure, I've got
Give me a minute.
2 safety pins and a box of tissue.
That's exactly how
and
it
you
was.
just figure it out.
That's right. And
At every juncture.
Right. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking to his statement there, he smiled with a little half smile. And, you know, we had known each other hardly that long at all. And moving in strictly for economic purposes, because he was paying rent, I was paying rent. We thought, why don't we just come together? You're gone all the time. I'm gone a lot. Let's just bring this thing together. So we were doing it really for financial reasons, and we did love each other. You know, we just haven't really seen this thing through enough to move in with each other, but we did. And again, he doesn't know me from Adam, basically. And when he gave me that little smirk, I thought, that's just enough fuel to make this shit happen. Paula's going to get busy. So he clears the door. I've already Googled paint manufacturer, Louisville, Kentucky. All of a sudden, damn, it dawned on me. When my sister and I sold paint on Main Street in Oneida, we used to pay the invoice to a company in Louisville, Kentucky. So I thought, oh shit, I remember this now, Gray Seal. So I look up Gray Seal Paint, Louisville, Kentucky, and it says company is sold to a company called California Coatings in California. So they have a phone number. I call them. And the lady answers the phone, nice as pie. And I said, hey, listen, I'm calling about Gray Seal Paint. I understand you all bought them and whatever. She said, yes, we did. And so nice. And before I hang up, she says, oh, by the way, she said, I know we can't help you, but she said, there is a small part of that business, still the family-owned business there in Louisville called Lanning Chemical, and you should call them. She said, they'll toll make your paint. Well, now I know the word I'm looking for, toll make. I've never heard this term.
So what does that mean?
Toll means you tell me what you want and we'll make it, basically. So, and it truly doesn't fit that terminology, but toll means you have a formula that you give to a company and they will make your cake mix, basically. I didn't have that cake mix, but anyway, I know that term. So I'm going to sound industry sharp now. So I dial up this phone number in Louisville there, and a man answers the phone, and I could tell it was a young guy. And I tell him who I am. I said, I called out to California Coatings and gave me your number. And I said, ironically, I used to sell a brand called Gray Seal. And he said, I said, and a guy used to call on me, the sales rep was named Charles, and he wore taps on his shoes, literally taps, like tap dancer, taps on his shoes. And this man replies to me, I'll be darned. He said, that is my dad's best friend, Charles. And he said, why don't you come down and meet us? I was like, here we go. There's another one of these serendipitous moments. I get in my car, 2 or 3 days, I set up the appointment, go down to see them. I think I'm going to this, in my mind, this stainless steel, impeccable, beautiful milk factory, in a way. That's what I'm seeing in my head. Well, it could not have been the complete opposite of that. It was black. It was painted black. It was a chain fence. They had to buzz me in, the door, bad side of town, all the things, and totally the opposite of what I had in my mind. Mr. Lanning comes out. I meet him. I'm thinking, well, here's where the wheels fall off this wagon. He's going to ask me about this paint. I carried him down a can of Annie Sloan paint. Stopped and bought it on the way down there. Never had I ever stuck a brush in Annie Sloan paint.
So Annie Sloan paint, for people who know nothing about paint, is
was chalk type paint.
So what does that mean?
Chalk meaning it didn't require sanding. You had to wax it when you brushed it on. It was very dry, gritty, like a chalkboard.
Got it.
And she was this brand was the king, queen, whatever, of that style of paint, because it was a European heavy lime paint.
Okay.
So it was very gritty and dry, and you put wax on it to make it soft and smooth. So it was absorbent, basically. So I show him this paint, and he takes the lid off. Mr. Lanning, now he's the chemist. The young man met me, introduced me now to the father, who's the chemist. I'm thinking, here comes this $50,000. They're going to need a chemical analysis or whatever. This is where this ends. This journey's ending right here. He takes the lid off. He goes, he smells it. He pauses a second. He smells it again. He said, "Oh, we make that." I said, "Do you know what chalk paint is?" I'm quizzing him, thinking, This is different, dude. Do you not know this is different? He's like, "Sure, we make that." He said, "You got a nose like mine. You've smelled enough paint resin. You know what's in it." I said, "Oh, really? That's all you do?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "That's just flattened off house paint." I said, "Oh, okay. All right." So I leave them that can of paint, which they still have today, and they won't give it back to me. Just for posterity purposes, I want to keep that. Again, never had stuck a brush in it to know how it performed. I just knew it was what I was trying to kind of make something in that vein, not copy it, but they didn't copy it because they didn't even technically look at it. He just said, "That's just a resin I'm familiar with." And I leave. Again, I'm dressed up. I'm down there in my new car. I'm totally somebody they probably thought was cuckoo coming here. I leave thinking I'll never hear from them again. 2 weeks later, the son calls me up and he says, "Hey, Paula, we've taken your paint we made out to our store on Shelbyville Road. You can go out there and have it tinted off in the colors you want. My brother Brad will help you." Okay. I didn't know they had a retail store. I go out there and there's the paint, all three bases, the pastel base, the mid-tone base, and the deep base. Now I can have it made in all these colors on that card I made, right? For Charlotte, for the girl that's going to buy it from me. So now I can get her order together. So I do. And I print the labels off. Craig has not gotten home yet because he's now on another trip, right? He knows this stuff's in process, but he still don't quite believe what I'm doing. I remember him returning home on that weekend when he came home, and we were printing there, trying to print off the labels for the wraparound part. I'm gluing with a glue stick. I'd made this beautiful little logo that looks very much like it looks today. And I was dabbing my finger in the paint to touch the top so you could see what color that it was in the can. That's how homemade it looked. I carried all that down to Charlotte. She put it in her little store. She had never painted a thing with anything in her life. And I thought she was going to be this paint maven that was painting furniture. She said, no, I have never painted anything. I don't know how to use this stuff. I had concocted a wax formula on my stove. I'd bought beeswax, melted it down, put colorant in it, made brown wax, clear wax, white wax. Took that to her. On a Sunday afternoon, she smoked her cigarettes while I sat in the floor on a plastic thing in the floor. She had 3 little tables there. I painted those, showed her how to wax them. I leave, she pays me, and I apologize for taking her money. I gave her all the colors, and I said, "All right, Charlotte, listen, I know this is your tax money. It's February." I said, "If you can't sell this shit, I'll buy it back from you. Just know that. You just try it. If it don't work, whatever." Now, again, I've not painted a stick of anything with it until that day in her floor. I just got the paint. It was just hot off the press, right? 2 weeks later, she calls me and says, "Hey, I need to place a reorder, $258 reorder." And I said, "For what?" She said, "I am selling this paint like hotcakes." I said, "Really?" She said, "Yeah, people love it." She said, "I call it Paula's paint." And she said, "Everybody can't get enough of it. They're wanting these colors, this and this." And so I said, "Sure, tell me how much it is." So I take my son down to see his dad, take the paint. Still thinking they're crazy. And now I put it on eBay during that same time. I thought, well, here's a way to get it on a website really quick. Maybe it'll gain some eyeballs. And put it up there. All of a sudden, my goal was to sell $100 worth of paint a day. And all of a sudden, I'm selling 100 easily.